Hello, BookTube. This is part 6 of my ongoing book haul. It's going to be quite a few more, unless I just show them, just sort of lift them up and just go through them quickly, but I think they require a little bit of description. Again, just a brief thing, all these books, except the very first one here, but most of them after that, all of them, were free. I just had to pay some shipping charges, some courier charges, which was pennies per book. Literally, it wasn't even £20 to have several boxes of about 175 books shipped to me. My breathing is not the greatest today, so we'll see how. I don't have much puff in me, so we'll see how we go. But the first thing is that I had a bit of credit at a remainder place that I do like, and I thought I'd get a book from them. I didn't realize it was going to be this huge. It's a coffee table book size of Some Like It Hot, the official 50th anniversary companion by Loris Molson and Walter, forward by Walter Mersch. It's, as I say, it's a huge book. I just thought because I'd get it. I'll get to that moment, because I picked up a really cheap Blu-ray of it, and I watched it over the weekend, I think it was, yeah. And I've seen it several times before. It's a fabulous film. It's 1959, a Billy Wilder film written by him and I.A.L. Diamond, starring Tony Curtis, Jack Lemmon, Marilyn Monroe, and it just goes on. And we'll get to someone special, sort of interesting, a little trivia in a moment. But yeah, this book is just chock. I just had a chance to look at it a little bit. Large pages of photographs, and about the production. So that's what I wanted, was the production. And there's a picture of the band that they go to. That person right there, the trivia, that's Grace Lee Whitney. Now, does she sound familiar to you? Well, she should to Mark Richardson and Steve Donahue. She grew up, well, a couple years later, to play Yeoman Rand on the original Star Trek series. So that's a little trivia for Some Like It Hot. Let me put this down. I was sort of surprised at that. I learned it from the commentary on this. It's kind of weird because I can't get to the menu, but I had to scroll through to get to the commentary, so that was kind of interesting. So let's get to the book haul. Some dust on these. Another Weimar Germany book. Don't know if it's film. Let's look at it. It's called Weimar Germany, Promise and Tragedy. It's paperback, Weimar Centennial Edition, with a new preface by the author, Eric D. White. And it's Princeton University Press. Let's see here. 2007 was the original date, and then it looks like this revised edition is 2018. So again, a fairly newish book. There's some colored inserts, which are quite nice. Let's see here. Thoroughly up to date, skillfully written, and strikingly illustrated, Weimar Germany brings to life the era of unmatched creativity in the 20th century, one whose influence and inspiration still resonate today. Eric White has written the authoritative history, so it's a history, yeah, that has that this fascinating and complex period deserves, and he illuminates the uniquely progressive achievements and even greater promise of the Weimar Republic. White's reveals how Germans rose from the turbulence and defeat of World War One and revolution to forge democratic institutions and make Berlin a world capital of avant-garde art. So, history of Weimar, that's perfect. That I probably will put it with the film stuff because I don't want to put it there yet because it's a tight fit. Yeah, I'll probably wind up putting it with film stuff because it's sort of background to Weimar. Here's another one that's another odd history that's come in this collection. Tombstone, Deadwood, and Dodge City, recreating the frontier West. Kevin Britz and Roger L. Nichols. It's kind of a hokey cover. But it's a University of Oklahoma press book. 2018 again. Shootin', lynchin', hangin', announces the advertisement for Tombstone's Eldorado Days Festival. Dodge City's Boot Hill Cemetery sports an authentic hangman's tree. Not to be outdone, Deadwood's Days of 76 celebration promise miners, cowboys, Indians, cavalry, bars, dance halls, and gambling dens. The Wild West may be long gone, but its legend lives on in Tombstone, Arizona, Deadwood, South Dakota, and Dodge City, Kansas, restoring prosperity to the former frontier hometowns in Tombstone, Deadwood, and Dodge City. Kevin Britz and Roger L. Nichols conduct a tour of these iconic towns, revealing how, over time, they became repositories of Western America's defining myth, beginning with the founding of the communities in the 1860s and 70s. This book traces the circumstances, conversations, and clashes that shaped the settlements over the course of a century. So, there you go. Kind of a weird, well, it's not a weird history, it's just wouldn't expect it here in the UK so much. Another Roy Porter book. I knew this was here, and there might be a few more yet. The Creation of the Modern World. It's a nice hefty Norton publication, so it's not yellowed. I think there's one or two that are the British publications that are just light as a feather and fully yellowed. So yeah, so it's Norton, W.W. Norton, 2000. From the author of the critically acclaimed History of Medicine, The Greatest Benefit to Mankind, winner of Los Angeles Times Book Award, comes an engaging written and groundbreaking new work that highlights the long underestimated British role in delivering the Enlightenment to the modern world. In response to the numerous histories created are centered on France and Germany, Roy Porter makes an overwhelming case here for considering Britain the true home of modernity. He recalls how this country, driven by exuberance, diversity, and power of invention, influenced wider developments on the nearby continent of Europe and throughout the rest of the world. It's a hefty book. Over 700 pages. This one, I remember when it came out, and I was wondering about it, but I never got it. Another film book, Chaplin, A Tramp's Odyssey. Gunk on the cover. Simon Luvish. Yeah, this is a British edition, I can tell. The pages are starting to yellow. Faber and Faber. 2009. Yeah, I remember when this came out because it's an odd sort of biography of Chaplin, I think. An everyman who expressed the defiant spirit of freedom, Charlie Chaplin was first lauded and later reviled in the America that made him Hollywood's richest man. He was a figure of multiple paradoxes, and many studies have sought to unveil the man behind the mask. But Simon Lewish's new book, following on from his 5 major biographies of comedy classic stars from W.C. Fields to Laurel and Hardy and Mae West, looks afresh at the mask behind the man. Lewis charts the tale of the tramp himself through his films, from the early Mack Sennett shorts and the major features, The Gold Rush, City Lights, Modern Times, and The Great Dictator, among others. He weighs the relationship between the tramp, his creator, and his worldwide fans, and in doing so, retrieves Chaplin as the iconic London street kid who carried the surreal antics of early British music hall triumphantly on to the Hollywood screen. So I think it's sort of a biography, but based mostly on his filmography. The best biography I do have of him, really, well, other than like his own autobiography, which is really good, which it is. I used to have a copy of it, but I haven't had one for quite a while, and it is in this collection, but it's coming. The best one is what's his name? I can't even see it. Brain fog. David Robinson. It's a signed copy that I have anyway, but it's the best biography. It's a honking big one. More film and more Weimar cinema. Peripheral Visions: The Hidden Stages of Weimar Cinema. It's doesn't have a jacket, but does have a thingy on the back. It's Wayne State University Press, Detroit. It's edited by Kenneth S. Calhoun. And it's a collection of essays. It looks like it's part of a series or called Critique, with a K and a K at the end. German Literary Theory and Cultural Studies. It's 2001. And as I say, there are a series of essays. Krakauer versus the Weimar Film City. Picture postcard. Krakauer writes from Berlin. Krakauer, I think we saw a book by him, or will be. He was a film historian, early sort of film historian. Provocations of the disembodied voice, song in the transition to sound in Berger's Day and Night. Man and Machine, the shift from soul to identity in Lang's Metropolis, and Ruttman's Berlin. So it looks like it's going to be quite academic, but essays aren't so bad that I find, because you can reread or go back, and it's a little more contained. When it's a super academic, honking book that's 300, 400, 500 pages, sometimes I get lost. Alarm going off now. Oh, here we go. Here's another Roy Porter. And here is an example of the British edition, which is yellowing. Steve Donahue keeps talking about British editions, but the pages, you can probably see, are yellowed. But this is a huge history of medicine. It's over 800 pages. That's weird. The corner's clipped there for some reason. It's Harper and Collins. It's The Greatest Benefit to Mankind, a medical history of humanity from antiquity to the present. 1997. Medicine advances ever faster, and with it a capacity not just to overcome sickness, but to transform the nature of life itself. Beginning in antiquity, Roy Porter's Titanic history examines the traditions of both East and West to chart how this revolution came about, and how life for human beings in some parts of the world at least has ceased to be nasty, brutish, and short. So yeah, so it's pretty good shape, other than the pages turning brown, yellowing and turning brown. So yeah, it's just too bad it wasn't sort of another Norton. Okay, here we go. Oh yes, this is interesting. It's a bit rough. Another cinema book, but this time going back to Hollywood. Hollywood on Trial. McCarthyism's War Against the Movies. Michael Freeland, with Barbara Paskin. Another British publication. Yellowing pages. It's Robson Books. An imprint of Anova Books, 2007. So it's not that old, and it's already deteriorating. On the crisp March morning in March 1951, Larry Parks kissed Betty Garrett goodbye and caught a flight from Los Angeles to Washington. They were one of Hollywood's golden couples. Parks, the hero of the Jolson story. Garrett, the co-star of Frank Sinatra and Gene Kelly in On the Town. But their iconic status was to be short-lived. For Larry Parks' visit was to appear before the notorious House of the House Un-American Activities Committee, and his tearful testimony was to signal the end of their careers. So, oh yes, Dalton Trumbo was sort of exiled in some ways, or put out to pasture, because it's been termed a witch hunt. Walls, A History of Civilization in Blood and Brick. David Fry. So this is a newer UK 2018, and it's British Favour and Faber, so it hasn't yet turned, but it probably will in a few years. For thousands of years, we have built walls and assaulted them, admired walls and reviled them. Great walls have appeared on nearly every continent, the handiwork of people from Persia, Rome, China, Central America, and beyond. They have accompanied the rise of cities, nations, and empires, and yet they rarely appear in our history books. David Fry draws on ancient sources and archaeological digs spanning millennia and traversing the globe to uncover the true story of walls, asking questions that are both intriguing and profound. Did walls make a civilization possible? Can we live without them? This is more than a tale of bricks and stone. Fry reveals the startling link between what we build and how we live, who we are and how we came to be. It's nothing less than the story of civilization. He's very young. Well, looks quite young, but maybe he's not. David Fry is a professor and historian whose research has taken around the world and involved him in numerous archaeological digs since receiving his PhD from Duke University. He has published extensively in international academic journals. He lives in Connecticut. To wall or not to wall? Greece 600 to 338 BC. Kind of a different approach to things. Oh wow, this is interesting. Another one of these naked hardcovers. Sort of plasticized covers. Yeah, and it's print on demand. The Early Public Lunatic Institutions of England. Oh, part one. A comprehensive model of their governance and management. Robert J. Wycherley. Sounds interesting. So part one, though, it's 2017. On the back here it says, early English institutions for the mad have generally not fared well in historical literature on madness and its management. Few accounts of them have drawn on their own records, and when discussed in any detail, they have commonly been used as a negative baseline from which to describe a hard-won battle to modern enlightened understanding and humane treatment of mental illness. This book aims to describe in detail the management and functioning of all English public lunatic institutions founded up to 1765, so early, and draws almost entirely on their own records. At the onset, it seemed unlikely that the governors of these institutions set out to abuse the mad, as was often suggested in the literature on madness, and two questions were posed. How did their early institutions function, and what did their governors see as their role? The book answers these questions by examining the formation and maintenance of the ethos of their governing bodies and its expression in the government, in the management of their institutions. It will be suggested that the governors were essentially well-intentioned individuals who, although confining individuals who were a public danger or nuisance, saw themselves as attempting to care for and cure them on the best, to the best of their abilities. This caring and curing confinement provided increasing popular, proved increasingly popular, and their institutions grew in consequence. However, they were not simply warehouses, they were progressively improved in comfort and convenience. As will be shown, they were also managerially complex institutions which showed many of the characteristics of modern hospitals. So fascinating. First published. It is Grosvenor House Publishing Limited. 2017. So I don't know. Yeah, don't know if there's a part two out yet or not. Not that familiar. There was another Grosvenor House Publications, I think. Yeah, that's Memoirs of a Millennium. It looks like they're almost, it's like a self-published type place, but I'd have to look into it. But it sounds like a fascinating book. This is The World Until Yesterday. Jared Diamond. It says best-selling authors of Guns, Germs, Steel, and I forget the full title of that because it's got a sticker on it. So that's the book. Another British edition here that's turning yellow. Oh, okay, yeah. It's The World Until Yesterday. What can we learn from traditional societies? So it's Alan Lane, Penguin, 2012. Blurbs on the back. Prize-winning author Jared Diamond transformed our understanding of the rise and fall of human civilizations with his previously international bestsellers Guns, Germs, Steel, and Collapse. Now he returns with another epic journey into a rapidly receding history in The World Until Yesterday. Diamond reveals how tribal societies offer an extraordinary window into how our ancestors lived for millions of years, until virtually yesterday in evolutionary terms, and provide unique, often overlooked insights into human nature. I've wanted to get and read the Guns, Germs, and Steel and Collapse. But that sounds interesting as well. So there's a lot of books here that I'm sort of interested in myself. I'm going to try to limit them, but obviously, I don't know, it could be about half of what we're going through. There might be ones that I'd like to keep. Here's an interesting, it's an academic monograph. Violent language and its use in religious conflicts in Elizabethan England. Discourses on values and norms in the Marpalet controversy, 1588/89. It's Peter Lang, which are very expensive, and it looks like it's like a volume 40 of a series, 2017. So it's another one of these naked hardcovers. Doesn't look like print on demand. Yeah, there's a whole list of these here. I can't pronounce the. It's a German. Well, I think it's just something in German. Monographs on English literature. Elizabethans saw eloquent language as the mark of the civilized gentleman. At the same time, they believed language to be able to harm, analogous to physical violence. Such concepts of language have important implications for the study of religious controversies of the time, in which the authors often attack each other, often harshly, via print language, employing historical discourse analysis and study analysis. This study analyzes Elizabethan concepts of violent language and shows under which circumstances Elizabethans understood language use as violence. In a second step, the main contributions in one of the most notorious theological controversies of the time, the Marpalet controversy, are analyzed in terms of how these concepts of violent language were used as strategies of legitimation and legitimation. Not pronouncing that right, I'm sure that. Sounds interesting, but most likely over my head. Oh yeah, I remember this one. I had high hopes for something else popping up, but it didn't. The Day Will Pass Away. The Diary of a Gulag Prison Guard, 1935-36. Ivan Kristiakov. Introduction and notes by Irina Sherebakova. Translated from the Russian by Arch Tate. And this is (2017) Pegasus Books. Originally recorded in several ordinary notebooks, which were anonymously donated to the Memorial Human Rights Center in Moscow after years of suppression. This remarkable diary is one of the few first-person accounts to survive the sprawling Soviet prison system. At the back of the journals, there is a blurred snapshot of and a note. Kristiakov, Ivan Petrovich, repressed in 37-38, killed at the front in Tula province in 1941. This is all that remains of Ivan Kristiakov, a senior guard at the Baikal Armor Corrective Labor Camp. Yeah, that sounds interesting. I had hoped when I saw this that maybe the trilogy, the Gulag Archipelago by Solzhenitsyn was available. Some I do have to get is because I think there's there's a university that is newly translating, or they're going to translate his complete sort of novel, which is like 6 volumes, I think. It's massive, on the Russian Revolution. And 2 of the later volumes, I think, have been published, and they're publishing other stuff. I hope they're going to go through them all, because there were some that were published before, but some of them had never been translated. So it'd be interesting to see. It'll be nice to see it on a shelf. It'd take up a whole shelf, I think, this bloody novel that he wrote. And, well, it will be bloody. And it would be an interesting read. Oh, this is sort of very, very pertinent for today, I would say. Opposing Fascism, Community, Authority, and Resistance in Europe. Edited by Tim Kirk and Anthony McGilligot. Another one of these Cambridge monographs that don't have, that are plasticized covers. Yeah, it's another one of these that says stamp damage, but I think it's because they're shop returns, and they may have used these as, sorry, I just had to straighten up something there, because that's still solid. They may have used these as review copies. Cambridge, 1999. This innovative volumes, drawn together in a wide-ranging collection of series of perspectives on the everyday examples of Europeans in the age of fascism. The contributors go beyond the controversial stereotypes of organized resistance to examine the tensions and ambiguities within the communities, both national and local, that opposed fascism. So yeah, so it's a collection of essays going back 1918 to 1920. The German Revolution defeated and fascism deferred the servicemen's revolt and social democracy at the end of the First World War. So yeah, so that could be the blue shirts in the Irish Free State, 32 to 35, the nature of socialist republicanism and the government opposition. So yeah, academic, I'm sure. Okay, now we get into another 2 serious archaeology books here. They're both from Oxbow Books. This is Boutrant, 6 excavations on the Verana Plain, Volume 2, The Finds, edited by Simon Greenslade. Won't go into too much, it's just the usual. The word that I was trying to think of before with regards to pottery was profiles. I'll just go back to that at the moment. Yeah, it's sort of, no. Yeah, well, it's just, they draw a profile of the shape of the lip of the opening and everything, so then you could compare it to other sites for dating usually. But this is the finds there. This is, as I say, Oxbow Books for the Boutrant Foundation, 2019. Wow, so it is quite new. Excavations by K.M. Kenyon in Jerusalem, 1961-67, Volume 6, Sites on the Edge of the Ophel. Levant, Supplementary Series 18 by K. Prague. And usual again, yeah, there we go. That's the usual sort of profiles of the pottery. And yeah, it's just the excavation reports with a few fold-out maps of the stratigraphy. Yeah, Kenyon, she dug at Jerusalem and Jericho, and I've gone through most of those reports, the earlier reports, to do reports for class at university. One of my professors, Dr. Toombs, perfect name for an archaeologist, I'm not sure if it was Jericho or Jerusalem that he excavated at under Kenyon. He was a student of Kenyon, Kathleen Kenyon, for a while. So it was interesting that there was a very close connection there for sort of the older archaeologists, and for me, which just wouldn't happen now. It would be sort of third, fourth, fifth removed today. But anyway, yeah, Oxbow Books is a fabulous publisher in Oxford, with it's started by David Brown, and it's in Connecticut. Yeah, I think they're still there. Is their sort of American counterpart, the David Brown Book Company. But they distribute a lot of publishers as well. Just a fabulous publishing house and book place for archaeology. If you want anything archaeology, that's where you go. Anyway, that's the end of number 6 here, and excuse the sort of interpolation at the beginning of with the Some Like It Hot, but that came today, and it was sort of a nice sort of way to insert that with book after watching the film. This was very cheap Blu-ray. It's a good transfer. The picture's good. I just can't get to the other extras in it because I can't get to the menu for some reason. But it was really cheap. It's not. I don't think it's a knockoff. It's supposed to be region free, and maybe my player just won't play it. I want to get the American Criterion Blu-ray of it, which has a lot more extras on it, but it's going to be like almost £30 to get it. So, 4 or 5. I think there's 4 or 5 pounds compared to that. Well, I can hold off for a while. And Star Trek connection. Go back to the beginning if you're only seeing this now. Anyway, take care, BookTube. I will be back with part 7.